So you followed Conor's career for a bit now. As you can see here in studio, we've got a few of his pieces out that are gifts that were given to you. We got some of his whiskey there. We got one of his gloves signed, by the way. And then, of course, you got little Conor there as the little mini guy there.
Got his whiskey.
Yeah, empty, of course, because we don't want that.
Yeah, we finished it before we started.
Yeah, we don't want to break that out.
Air,
it's a little early here, but hey, why not? Any time's a good time for whiskey, especially proper 12. So you followed him for a bit now. I guess what my thinking is about bringing this episode to the masses is, first of all, how do you feel about his performance outside the ring? I feel like now he's more known for what goes on outside of it than what goes on inside of it. So what is your takeaway there?
I think it's fantastic. He's a fantastic marketer.
Promoter, right?
Yeah, he's a promoter. Yeah. He's a marketer. He sells himself constantly. And see, this is, and you and I talked about this off air a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things about him is that he understands that there is no negative attention, right? Attention is attention. To keep your name relevant, to keep it out there. I mean, you don't want it all negative, obviously. Yeah. And his isn't all. He has his share. He definitely gets his share of criticism. But the guy has, somewhere along the line, and I'm not exactly sure where this kicked in for him, but the idea was that he understood that being out there all the time, everywhere, was the deal. Like, that's the deal.
Sure, everywhere, all the time.
Yeah. So let's just put this out on the table, right? Let's remove the illusion. The guy's a businessman.
Totally.
Right? He's a fighter. Yeah. He's a great fighter. He may be considered one of the best. Like, I'm not,
sure.
That's just what I hear. I don't think he's the best, but he may be.
But he's in the conversation.
He's in the conversation, right?
Yeah.
But what's not in the conversation is the guy's a brilliant businessman. He's there to fucking make money. He's there to build a legacy for himself. Whether he goes down as one of the greatest fighters in history or not, I mean, he's probably thinking, who cares,
doesn't matter, I'm just making it rain.
Make it rain.
Yeah.
Make it rain. And I'm sure Dee's happy as shit, and the kids are happy as shit. And he is also a very positive statement coming out of Ireland. You don't see that come out of Ireland. I mean, Ireland is such a fantastic country. The more positive that comes out of Ireland over the years, I think, the great. It's just, and he knows that. He's a proud Irishman.
Sure.
Also, he knows the history of what he grew up in, and with the country being divided. I mean, we grew up with that country being at war with each other, and he's a great guy. And I've never met him. I don't know him personally. I'm just telling you what my observation is. And here's something else that I know about Conor. Conor, I relate to him probably more from the aspect of the business part. I mean, I love the fighting, right?
Sure. It's a good watch. It's entertaining.
It's a great watch. I was a Frazier fan and Ali and I always liked that stuff. I'm not a religious watcher. I'm not going to watch every damn fight. I like the big fights, right? But I won't watch football all year, but I'll watch the Super Bowl. You know me. Like, we have a party every year.
Yeah,
we have an amazing
a
Super Bowl party.
The big ones.
I'll watch the World Series, right? I'll watch, the Stanley Cup. I'll watch that stuff. I don't want to watch all the other stuff. I'm not into sports that much. I'm into winning.
Yeah, you're into greatness.
I'm into winning. I'm into greatness. With the only exception to that was when Jordan played.
Yes.
I would stop what I was doing to watch Jordan play.
That was appointment television.
Whenever he was on the court. And then a little bit with Kobe. Not as much because I was much busier when Kobe was playing and I was a kid. I mean, Jordan and I are basically the same age.
Right.
He's only a couple of years older than me. So it was a very interesting thing. But with Conor, there's this other part that we have in common, which is the searcher part. One of the things that changed his life, and he talks about it, I don't know how much he's talking about it right now, but he did a few years ago, was The Secret. The Secret completely changed his fucking life. He built everything that he did on the belief of understanding The Secret. And a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. If you look on YouTube, there's actually a couple hours of him talking about it.
Really?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. Oh,
so
yes.
he's aware. Like he knows this sphere that you work in.
Very, very, very. The Secret came into his life and it completely changed his outlook on where he was going.
Wow.
Now, where the business part came in, who his business influence was, who taught him there, I don't know.
We don't know that yet.
I don't know that yet. I know that he hooked up. Robbins got in there a little bit later on. I don't know if they're still doing their thing, but he was Robbins can't take credit for this guy's success.
Sure.
Right? Robbins has done a lot for a lot of people, but he can't take credit for this guy's success. He came in much later in the game. So who his business acumen came from, where he picked that up, I don't know. But I'm the person that is like, tell people, like, stop, right? So, and you even said it. He threw the ball. Who do you know where the fuck ball went into, like,
we'll get into that
like
in
a foul
bit.
ball. He threw a foul ball.
Exactly.
Right? But that's going to get played everywhere versus, like, if he threw one right down center.
Right.
Like, who cares if he threw one right down center? Everybody would expect him to throw one right down center, not toss it over into the hot dog stand, which is what he did.
So everything is orchestrated in a way. I mean, for business people like this, and I'm glad that you bring up the business side, because that's, we talk about the successful mind here. We're not specifically talking always about business. That's what these Full Throttle Thursday episodes are about. But when you think about someone like a fighter, if you go down the lineage and you go down the list, Ali was a businessman. Even back then, he was into self-promotion. He was the biggest and the baddest.
That's where he models
100%.
That from, Ali.
The Ali. Even when you go into Tyson was just this kid from the streets who ended up having a lethal freaking right and left hand, and he promoted the shit out of himself. And he bites. and we still talk about that to this day. It's the moment where you're like, in the heat of battle, he's a friggin' tiger. He's going after you. So these people, especially those in the MMA, they are masters at their brand and promoting their brand. And you see it all the time, and now it's expected. Before, when they would square off during the weigh-in and get nose to nose, it used to be a civil affair. Now, if punches aren't thrown or pushes aren't happening, or if the camps aren't coming together, then it's not going to be played over and over again. And I'm sure that, Dana White behind the scenes is just like, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. Everything is orchestrated, because in order to stay relevant, the MMA has had to do that. And it's really cool to see Conor do that.
And Dana also has to play the Dana White role. Like, there has to be some decorum and, and all this. And then Conor throws, a chair through a bus window or whatever the fuck it was that he threw, and then like Dana's like, he's saying this thing over here, like, what, we can't be doing that. I might suspend you. But on the other side, he's like, man, you guys are killing it. You cannot deny, and Rogan talks about this quite a bit also, that if you take the UFC, nobody knew the UFC was going to be what it is today, but the fantasticness of it was modeled off of the WWF,
WWF, WWE, absolutely.
It was. I mean, when we looked at wrestling, and everybody knew wrestling was bullshit, that it was theatrics. It's like, what if you took those theatrics and you put it with something that was a real contest, right? Where it wasn't just an athletic.
It wasn't predetermined.
Those are athletic guys. There's no question.
Absolutely.
But they're, this is not the fighting that we see today.
Right.
It's not. So if you take the theatrics of that, you take the shit talking of Ali, and you put that into some people that have some charisma in UFC fighting, you've got like one of the biggest industries on the planet.
Yeah.
You've got it is contagious for everybody that wants to see it. Conor happens to also be a good-looking guy. He's a dandy, like he's a clothes horse.
Yes,
like get the fuck out.
He's got style.
He does. He's got he's got the physique to carry it, and he's embodied it in his walk, in his gestures, in everything that he does. He is a marketing genius. It is saying pay attention to me without saying pay attention to me, because it actually looks like, oh, he's just being a dick again, or he's doing this. But that's the whole idea. The whole idea is eyeballs, 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 eyeballs.
Yeah.
If you didn't even follow UFC, you probably know Conor's name. Which
is very interesting, because you're right. There's people probably listening to this or watching this right now that are saying, I have no idea much about this UFC you're talking about, but I do know the name Conor McGregor.
Right.
And that just goes to show you that he is a relevant person, even though, these guys only fight like 22 times, 23 times in their career. I mean, the ones that are
the big ones
sanctioned, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But who knows how many more he'll have. But the reality of the situation is that we talk about him because he does know ways to keep relevant, stay top of mind. Yeah. And that was the whole, throwing out the pitch at the Cubs game, a week or two ago where he's
in my hometown, motherfucker.
I know he was in your hometown. He should have popped down and said hello to us down here. We'd love to have him in studio. I could take him out for a dog. Absolutely. There you go. Well, I think he was heading that way as he threw that pitch because
I seriously think he was.
For those people that haven't seen it, go on YouTube and watch him throw this pitch. There was this moment where I said to myself, is this orchestrated or is he really that bad at throwing a ball? I mean, this is one of the guys that he's got one of the most lethal, friggin' hands, his left hand's in the game.
Yeah.
Throwing a baseball as bad as he did.
Did he throw with his left hand?
He did. He threw it.
Put it on. Did he throw
I can't
with his
remember.
Left hand?
All I know is he almost hit somebody in the stands. Like if you've been to a baseball park, you can see him throwing that ball right down the pipe.
Can we put it on?
And he didn't throw the pipe. He didn't throw it. He threw it into the stands, and that was insane to me. But on the bright side, his confidence can get him through any situation, and I bet he loved seeing those clicks come through. We can go ahead and take a look. We'll see if we can pull this up on the screen here so you can get a look and see how bad this was. Like, to me, that tells me that was 100%. I did. That is 100% orchestrated, in my opinion. There's no way you can miss that badly. I mean, we've seen people flub it in the middle. We've seen people overshoot the catcher, but never to the point where
you said that to me off air. I said, what do you think? He was nervous? I wasn't even thinking, and you're like, no, I think he did it on purpose. I'm like, you fucking, that's exactly, that's Conor.
Only Conor knows. But then, to do that.
So let me just say, I'm inviting Conor to come on the show.
100%.
And let's talk about his marketing style.
So that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. If you had him on the show, what would you ask him? What are some things you'd like to know?
First thing I would do is I would talk about him about how he grew up and how this whole idea of The Secret and all that kind of came into his life, because he takes that shit serious. Like, I don't really care what anybody else thinks. I was inside that stuff. I was there before The Secret. My mentor was in The Secret. He was like the main star in The Secret. I was considered to be in it, but there was a little, conflict thing going on.
Sure.
The thing about this is I would really love to know why that appealed to him, why it's meant so much to him, how he's applied it in his life. Because I would really I would also like to see that message get out to other people. And I know that in the beginning he talked about it a lot.
Right.
I don't see it much anymore, but who knows? I mean, I don't know what they're. The other thing is like there's a lot of people like, oh, that's kind of fucking stupid shit, or that doesn't really work. And the truth is The Secret was only this much of the understanding of what that stuff is about. It's it was very deceptive. But even that book was designed to get people to read it. Mm-hmm. It wasn't designed really to teach people everything about that ideology, that information. So I mean, I understand that. And then Rhonda is a marketer too. Like she.
Oh, Ronda Rousey.
No.
Rhonda
Byrne.
Oh,
Rhonda
geez,
Byrne.
I was thinking.
Ronda Byrne. Yeah, Ronda Rousey too. But I'm talking about Rhonda Byrne. Who wrote the book? Like, she did a genius job with that stuff.
I wonder if there was a moment where Conor, when he thought that might be seemed as a weakness, because it was deemed for a while there as, she made it believe that you could just think about something and shit happens. You could just, I'm just going to think about this thing and I'm going to get it like that. There's more to it than that. And you've even said 100 times, like, there's a lot of the stuff in The Secret that is just blown way out of proportion. And that speaks to the marketing arm that you said Rhonda was. But I wonder if there was a moment in time where Conor started to distance himself from that. And instead of leading with that, he just kind of kept it in-house and buried it underground. Like a lot of people tend to do when you get into personal development, professional development, because a lot of people want to be able to do it themselves. And the truth is you need to have someone guiding you on that path.
Yeah.
And you don't often go on Facebook and say, I'm working with this person. I'm working with this person.
I know. There, if you look it up on your computer, there's like a 45-minute to an hour interview on YouTube with Conor talking about The Secret.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
I had no
idea.
idea.
There's a few of them,
but
there's one that's actually that long. It's like 45 minutes, I think.
Okay, I'll find it and I'll link to it in the show notes so people can check that out. It's really interesting. I'm getting blown away here. I had no idea that was even a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I could kind of tell that these fighters, these gritty guys that come from the streets, they've got a little bit of that in them, that, The Secret, or, I'm going to seek out a mentor to bring me to this next level. I guess I never really thought that that Conor was one of them.
Well, so it was interesting because when he first started getting really big, people were asking him, like, how did you do this and all this? And he's like, you don't understand. I attract this stuff to me. Like, I attract it. Like I believe in all that stuff. I attract it. I build an image in my mind. And then he actually came out and said this. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. Really?
Yeah.
This is like the first athlete that we've probably ever had talk about the metaphysical side of what they do. And I know that a lot of them do.
Yeah.
They just don't talk about it publicly because they don't want to be looked like they're an idiot. But I mean, so many successful people do. Let's just say what it is.
Oh, absolutely.
But the fact that he came out and said it, I was like, no shit. And then I started watching. He did a few things, and then it kind of got. I don't even know that it was something that he stopped talking about as much as things just moved on in his career, and he became bigger than life, and
Well, and I think athletes in general visualize. I mean, they all visualize something. They're visualizing as young children about winning the Super Bowl, or, you hear them after the fact talking about that and all the hard work that goes into it and putting your blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. I think it's really cool that he does bring that up. I'll definitely take a look at.
Let's look at some of the things that he's done here. He's got this Proper 12 whiskey that, I mean, obviously he sold. I mean, like, that's a brilliant thing to do.
He made some fat stacks there. He's definitely making a rain with that.
He did, but look what he did for Ireland too.
Yeah.
Like, he did a really good whiskey. I mean, when was the last time Ireland had a really great whiskey come out, right? I mean,
their lineage is like hundreds of years old. Their whiskeys, they haven't
so it was right, and it's a pretty damn good whiskey.
Yeah.
I mean, this bottle was pretty good. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way of things. You see another person like Floyd Mayweather Jr., who actually Conor did fight in a boxing match to go toe-to-toe with one of the best pound-for-pound fighters ever, out of his lane, even though he didn't win that fight. He proved to a lot of people that, I mean, this guy could accomplish pretty much anything because he has the drive, he has the mettle to see it through, and it's really cool. My biggest concern is that all of this distraction outside of the ring is going to continue to take him down this road where he becomes like a sideshow performer. But the thing about it, and you don't want to be a parody, but he's also getting clicks, he's also getting paid, he's also making money. So I just don't want to see the parody aspect of it.
So, yeah.
But you don't know. I mean,
but hang on a second. What's Conor's dream?
True.
What's Conor's goal?
We project
because
a lot on him.
everything that is parody or judgment or like this guy's fucking crazy or whatever, there's dollars flowing into this guy's account in huge freaking numbers.
Oh, sure.
Right? He is not an idiot, even though people would think he is because of the stuff that he's doing. They don't understand that it is done on purpose, right? In order to do whatever he's doing. He may never even admit that. I mean, he might be like, no, it's just the way that I am. But look, when you're at that level, everything that you're doing is into consideration of, is this moving me forward or not? And he wants to be in the eye constantly part of the conversation. It doesn't matter, because if the guy is as talented as he is, he comes back and he knocks somebody out with his fucking shoulder in 6 seconds, and it's like, now what do you say? Or you could say he's an idiot all you want, but he just floored the cowboy, and broke his his eyeball or whatever.
Yeah, he's still one of the best that's
ever
one of the best. Fought in UFC. And definitely, as far as earning is concerned, the guy just gets pay-per-view buys like crazy. Yeah. And I think for people who know of Conor McGregor and would be saying like, oh my God, I can't believe this guy, he's not even worth the time we're giving him, I would encourage them to go watch the Netflix documentary that they did. It was called Notorious.
Yeah, that was 2017.
Yeah, 2017. It really shed some light into who Conor McGregor was as a human. There was a human side to it because, you know, these fights don't last very long, but the training that leads up to them and the amount of marketing and self-promotion and not even considering what they have to do in the gym and all these other things, it really does make you think a little bit differently about who Conor was. Because when you first came in and you were sharing Proper 12 and you had this, you know, this signed glove and this little Conor bobblehead that we have here, I was thinking, okay, this is interesting. David's not into sports. He's not into, you know, listening to any of this stuff going on. And now all of a sudden he's hitching his train to Conor McGregor. Why is that?
Yeah.
And
his greatness.
Yeah, and it was the greatness part.
Yeah.
And then you turned me on to watching this documentary, and I started going down some YouTube stuff, and I'm like,
it's one of my favorites. Yeah,
it's really cool to see that there's a human side to these people that we oftentimes forget, especially in our athletes. These are our heroes. These are our role models. And also in the UFC game, there needs to be a villain, right? There needs to be someone who...
You taught me that.
Yeah, there needs to be... And you go back to the WWF
Even in
days.
like with the fans.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. The different camps. I remember when I was growing up watching WWF, I lived for WWF. You had to have the good guy and the bad guy. You had to have the Hulk Hogan and you had to have the Andre the Giant. You had to have these people. And when they crossed over, you know, when Hulk Hogan dyed his beard black and he became a bad guy, you're like, what the hell? But then you still watched. I don't watch anymore, but you had to have a bad guy. And the thing is that the notorious documentary, Conor McGregor was going down a road for me where he was going to be the bad guy. He's just a mouthpiece. You know, he hasn't won a lot of fights. He's really struggling. But then I watch his documentary and I think to myself, this guy's a good guy. Down deep, he's a good guy. And he's doing things for his community, for his people that people don't even know about because they want to put him up on this. Oh, he's just a bad guy. Look at him. Play the role. But you play the role in such a way. And it's just interesting to see. But I would encourage people to go watch Notorious. It was an amazing, and it came out in 2017. So a lot's happened in the 4 years since that came out.
Yeah.
I mean,
so,
crazy.
So just in 2021, I looked it up. His net worth is $200 million.
Yeah.
Right now, right? $200 million. That's not. I mean, that's. You know, that's not all UFC money.
Absolutely.
Right?
And it's not even probably taking in consideration the Proper 12 sale because that in itself is probably not discussed. It's probably not talked about. You know what I mean? Which is so interesting because it was... I did read somewhere that he sold his stake for somewhere around $600 million. Now, I don't know how much of that he got, but the dude knows how to earn. He knows how to promote. And I think what's really interesting about that is he just keeps staying relevant.
$600 million
just
in April.
Just keeps staying relevant. So it's really cool to see.
Proximo Spirits, 12 Irish whiskey. He sold it to Proximo Spirits in a deal that's worth up to $600 million. So it's probably over time.
Yeah,
you know, like just
totally. I just think what's interesting is over the course of the last, 4 years, right? He's fought 4 times in the octagon. He's lost 3 of those fights. But those fights were some of the biggest pay-per-view buys ever because when Conor's in the conversation, people want to watch.
Yeah.
And, you might have people tuning in to watch him get knocked out, and you're going to have the other people who are tuned in to watch him fight. So I think how we pull this back into the conversation of a successful mind is put yourself in his shoes and think a little bit about what does it take from his side of things to keep going. I mean, he's not an old guy by any stretch of the imagination, but there does come a point in time when he's going to have to move on. And, like you said at the beginning, all publicity is good publicity. Can his brand be affected by what goes on outside the ring, or can it only improve?
Can only improve.
Can only improve
because it has nothing to do with the ring anymore. The ring is done. As long as he can stay relevant in the minds of people, it doesn't matter. But he also knows that generally that time is probably limited. But what happens is that you turn yourself into an icon like Ali, and Ali became relevant his entire life. True. For many different things. It wasn't just fighting.
His philanthropy, his political beliefs, his philanthropy.
Right, his religious change. So let's look at this. Conor McGregor's net worth broken down. 32 years old, net worth $200 million. Source of wealth: MMA, boxing, endorsements, whiskey distillery business, menswear, sports management. Salary from 2020 to 2021 is $37 million.
Okay.
Endorsements, $16 million. This is from 2020 to 2021.
Yeah.
Okay. Residence: Dublin, Las Vegas, and Marbella. Right. Can't argue with him there. Sponsors, Electronic Arts, Reebok, Wynn Resorts, Beats by Dre, Monster Energy, Burger King, TIDL, Sports, and McGregor FAST, right? So this is just something that he continues to build on. But here's the thing. In here, the whiskey distillery business is considered in that. But his salary's $37 million.
Yeah.
His salary's $37 million, right? So the idea is that anything that makes sense for him to touch he will be a billionaire. Unless he does something outrageously stupid.
Crosses a line
somewhere.
Somewhere.
Well, yeah. So like outrageously stupid would be that he killed somebody or he beat up his wife or something where he literally turned everybody against him. He could make almost any mistake possible, which he has.
Yeah.
And the people are going to still love him. He will be a billionaire. I mean, he will be a Jordan. He'll be an Ali. He'll be at that level. There's
and
no
what's
question.
interesting is if you go back to the time, of Ali when he was first starting out, there was no path that was guaranteed where he was going to be an icon. Like he was going to be an icon in the fight game.
But when he
went from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali and all these other things.
But when he went to jail for not going into Vietnam, right? When he said, "I'm not doing it. This is craziness," right? Think about how much of America, America was very divided then, right? But you think about the people that really loved the boxing at that age; those were probably pro-Nam people, most of them.
Sure.
I don't know what the number breakdown is, but he had balls. He stood for what he actually believed in, and he didn't back down. And even if you're a person that disagrees with what it is, you have to admire the fact that the guy would stand up for something like that.
Yeah, and he did. And he put everything at risk, and he had to take all that time off. He went to jail, all these sorts of things. And he came back from it.
And your statement that there's no guarantee or that you could even dream where he was heading is 100% true.
Yeah.
But he was being the person that he knew he could be.
True.
That's what I think.
Yeah. No, I think it's really interesting, and as long as Conor continues to do what he does and does well in promotion and doesn't mess up too much. I mean, he has had some interesting things happen over the course of the last few years. There's been some allegations alleged. There was sexual assault allegations that were brought down on him. They couldn't bring it to court because there wasn't any proof. When you're a big
hit on somebody, is that what?
Well, it's hard to say.
Seriously, that we're going to play that game with
hard
a
to
guy
say.
like this?
Yeah, I mean but that's what happens with these celebs, right? People come after them. They try to do whatever they can to get in the door. There was a pub assault. He beat the tar out of some guy outside of a pub in Dublin. I mean, that's just
also the one
guys
where they got
being
him
guys.
on the iPhone hitting some guy.
Yeah.
So he does have. There is something.
There is some things that are happened. So you don't know if it's a CTE thing. It's too early to say. He has been hit in the head multiple times, but he does have a good business sense. So it'll be interesting to see how he continues to carry that moving forward. You just don't know.
I would disagree with the CT thing. So here's what I know, because I have this personality myself. I'm an extremist. Extremists go over the edge in the wrong way sometimes.
Sure.
It's just part of our personality, and I think when I know about it, and the more I know about me, the more I can kind of see it. If you're not getting that expressed in a healthy way, there's a very reasonable chance you'll express it in an unhealthy way, not really on purpose, but just by getting sucked into you need to express more than you're thinking about what you're expressing it in.
Yeah.
I was terrible at that when I was young. I've matured a lot since, although I've done some things that are like, okay.
Yeah. So you got to express it in some way. It has to be expressed some way.
You have to. Yeah. You have to. Well, I was talking with Steph about this the other day. I said, Steph, I'm never not going to be that person. I just have to make sure that I direct it consciously in productive ways that are good for everybody and not something that's destructive. And I'll tell you what's been a challenge for me has been the whole COVID thing, because the COVID thing in a way is kind of like we're all under this, we can't do anything. I'm not doing the things that I normally would do. We travel all over the world together. We go to amazing restaurants. We go to amazing theater. We go to amazing concerts. We're out in our boats. We're out on our jet skis. We're doing all these things that we normally do, and for the last 18 months we haven't done shit.
It's true.
And it's kind of like, if I don't start proactively doing something different, I'm going to start doing things that are negative, right? And only because I need to do something. Yeah. I need to do something that's on the edge for me. So I have to be aware of that so I don't get myself
That's true.
in trouble.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think Conor's the same way.
Yeah.
I think he's the same way.
Yeah.
I don't think that he's really kind of guy. He probably has a temper. The guy's a fighter, for God's sake.
He is. He has to have a temper. It's his edge. It's who he is as a human being.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm not trying to throw CTE on him or anything like that, but it'll be interesting to see how as he ages.
Well, what are the like in your understanding of that, like with football players and stuff? What normally happens to those guys when it starts acting up?
I think they get completely to the point where it all depends. They can get suicidal, they can take their own life, they can really lose their shit and beat their, significant others. I mean, they're not in their
insane.
right mind. They go insane. Yeah, they're not in their right mind.
Break, right?
Yeah. So you start to see these things and you say, well, maybe he's got some of that, but we don't know. I mean, the only way to know is through brain scans or after the fact post-mortem when they cut up the brain and they look at all those dead spots.
Yeah.
We don't know. He's fought quite a few fights.
Who was the real big guy that they did the documentary on, the football player? What was his name?
I don't know. There's been so many. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I do know that there was a guy from the Chicago Bears. It was Dave Duerson, I believe was the gentleman's name, and I'll fact check it here, but that they went in and looked and Junior Seau was another one too.
Yeah.
He took his own life. He shot himself specifically in the chest.
Yep.
So that his brain would be okay to be studied, and they did find CTE there. Not to say that all fighters are going to get that, but it'll be interesting to see as Conor ages and progresses if his antics escalate to the point where, oh my God, this is crazy, something's wrong. But he's fought quite a few times, but he doesn't get hit that much because some of his fights are really relatively short because he is that lethal. So
well, the other thing is this: there's also a maturity factor. So let's take the disease out for a moment. If he doesn't, because he's going to get to the point where it doesn't make sense for him to fight, but he's going to have to transform that energy into something that can be just as wild, but it has to be productive. Right. Otherwise, he will end up beating people up in a bar. Yeah, he will end up hurting somebody he loves because you transfer. I mean, that part's not going to change. That's what we know. It's how we direct it that's the conscious part. And he's a conscious guy. That's why I'd love to have him on the show. I think he'd be a great guest.
So Conor, we're coming for you. We want you on the show.
That's right.
I mean, come on. We'd love to have you here. He would be a fascinating study of just get him in here. You want to talk about movers and shakers. That guy, I mean.
So Conor, I got a business proposition for you. You want to take what you understand and what I understand to another level as far as consciousness goes. You are the guy. Right? Come talk to me. Let's see what we can do.
There it is. That's a wrap for this one. Thanks, Dave.
You bet.
All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Full Throttle Thursday. If you like this episode, leave us a comment down below. Be sure to subscribe and ring that bell. A lot of people watch these videos, but they aren't subscribers. We definitely want you on our team. Be sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and we'll see you on the next Full Throttle Thursday.